Wealth is not just about money. Wealth is a philosophy, a way of thinking, a way of living. Money is only the echo of the thoughts you have allowed to take root in your mind. That is why two people can earn the same paycheck. One ends broke, the other ends wealthy. It's not the numbers, it's the mindset. Now, here's the interesting part. You don't attract wealth by chasing it. You attract it by becoming the kind of person it trusts. Money flows to discipline. It flows to vision. It flows to those who can multiply it, not just spend it. And if you want to know why wealth seems to slip through the fingers of so many, it's because they never learned the rules of attraction. If you keep thinking like the broke, you'll stay broke, even if you stumble into a pile of money. If you learn to think like the wealthy, discipline, vision, contribution, money will eventually find you because you've built the character to hold it. So tonight, I want to hand you 10 rules, simple, daily disciplines that will shift your thinking from scarcity to abundance. Because once the thinking changes, the money follows. Once the habits change, the fortune appears. Wealth doesn't respond to wishes. It responds to design. And the design begins with how you think every single day. When I first began my journey, I thought the purpose of a goal was the achievement itself. The number in the bank account, the car in the driveway, the house on the hill. But over time, I discovered something far deeper. The true value of a goal is not what you get, but what you become in the process of pursuing it. A goal is like a sculptor, chiseling away at your old habits, forcing you to grow into the kind of person capable of carrying greater responsibility, greater opportunity, and greater wealth. And here's the secret. Wealth never grows in comfort zones. Comfort zones are where dreams go to die. You will never stretch your capacity for wealth if you only set goals you already know how to achieve. The bigger the goal, the more your mind is forced to expand, the more creative you become, and the more focused your energy becomes. When you set a goal to become a millionaire, the money is almost secondary. What matters most is the kind of person you must become to get there. Disciplined, resourceful, resilient, and wise. Those qualities, once developed, will not only help you reach that goal, but will also ensure you keep growing far beyond it. That's why I always say, don't set a goal for the money. Set it for the person it will make of you. Now, let's talk about the practical side. First, your goals must be clear. Vague goals produce vague results. Don't just say, I want to be wealthy. Wealthy by when? Wealthy by how much? Wealthy in what form? Write down your financial goals in specific detail. Decide how much income you want to generate, how much you want invested, what kind of lifestyle you want to live, and put deadlines on them. Without a deadline, a goal is just a wish. Then, break it down. If the goal is $1 million in 10 years, what does that mean per year, per month, per week? When you chunk it down, suddenly the impossible becomes manageable. You start to see steps you can take today that align with where you want to be 10 years from now. But writing the goal isn't enough. You must track it. Every week, look at your progress and measure it against your target. If you're off course, don't beat yourself up. Adjust your strategy. Goals are not rigid walls. They're guiding stars. They keep you moving in the right direction, even when life pulls you sideways. Most people set a goal in January, forget it by February, and wonder why December looks the same as the year before. Don't be that person. Review your goals weekly, adjust monthly, and recommit daily. And here's the beauty. When you live with big, stretching goals, the universe responds. Opportunities show up that never would have appeared if you hadn't first declared your intent. People are attracted to those who live with purpose. Resources flow to those who prove they can handle them. And the bigger your goals, the bigger the person you will become in chasing them. That is how wealth is built, not just in dollars, but in character. Because in the end, it's not the money you earn that defines you, but the person you become while earning it. When I was young, I thought money was simply about earning more. If I worked harder, longer hours, surely the money would come and everything else would fall into place. But here's what I learned the hard way. Money doesn't respond to sweat alone, it responds to understanding. Ignorance about money is the most expensive mistake anyone can make. It will cost you opportunities, it will cost you freedom, and it will cost you years of your life you can't get back. The truth is, money has its own language. It speaks in terms of cash flow, interest rates, assets, liabilities, compounding, taxation, and leverage. And like any language, if you don't understand it, you'll always be the outsider in the conversation, missing out on what's really being said. I remember the first time I earned what felt like real money. I was excited, proud, and ready to enjoy it. But because I didn't understand the rules of taxation, half of it slipped away before I even knew what happened. I didn't know about deductions. I didn't know how to legally protect my income. I didn't know how to let money work for me instead of me constantly working for it. That's when it hit me. Money doesn't reward ignorance. It punishes it. The wealthy don't necessarily work harder, they work smarter because they've learned how money actually works. So what's the strategy? You must become a lifelong student of money. Study financial principles the same way a doctor studies medicine or an engineer studies design. Take courses on personal finance and investing. Read books on taxation, cash flow management, and wealth building. Don't just rely on your paycheck to teach you about money. That's like relying on luck to teach you about life. Study the economy. Learn how markets move, how interest rates affect investments, how inflation silently eats away at savings. When you understand these principles, you stop reacting blindly and start making informed, strategic decisions. But knowledge alone isn't enough. You must also practice. Begin by setting aside time each week to review your finances, where your money came from, where it went, what it produced, and how it can do better. Build the discipline of following market trends, not with fear, but with curiosity and strategy. The poor say, "I don't like money. It's too complicated." The wealthy say, "I will master the rules because my future depends on it." And here's the beauty. Once you learn the language of money, you stop being intimidated by it. You gain control. Instead of money controlling you, you direct it with intention. Money begins to flow to those who respect it enough to understand it. Because money, like any great power, responds to mastery, not ignorance. If you want wealth, don't just chase more of it, learn its language, and it will answer to you. I'll tell you something I learned after watching so many people earn money, spend it, and then wonder why their lives never changed. Consumption drains wealth, but reinvestment multiplies it. Every dollar you consume is gone forever, but every dollar you reinvest has the potential to become 2, 5, 10, or even 100. The wealthy understand that profits are not rewards to spend immediately. They are seeds. And seeds are not eaten. They are planted. If you eat the seed, the harvest ends with you. But if you plant the seed, the harvest can feed generations. When I first started to make a little money, my instinct was to celebrate. New clothes, dinners out, maybe even a new car. I thought, I've worked hard. I deserve this. And while there's nothing wrong with enjoying your labor, I soon realized something sobering. Every dollar I consumed was a dollar that lost its ability to grow. It was gone, and with it, the potential of compounding, the potential of building streams of income that could sustain me. That realization changed everything. I began treating profits not as a paycheck to spend, but as capital to reinvest. Here's the strategy. Decide that a portion of every profit you earn will never be touched for consumption. it will be reinvested. Make it automatic. If you run a business, reinvest in better systems, more marketing, or talent that can expand your capacity. If you're investing, put profits back into the market, allowing compounding to do its quiet but powerful work. If you're an employee, use savings to buy assets, stocks, real estate, or even skills that increase your earning power. The point is to see every profit as a seed, not a treat. And it requires discipline. Delay gratification. That car, that vacation, that new gadget, they can wait. Because the wealthiest people in the world got there not by indulging every win, but by reinvesting every win until their assets produced enough to cover their lifestyle without touching the principal. It's a different mindset. It's not about how much you can consume today, but how much you can multiply for tomorrow. I recommend you track your reinvestments just as carefully as you track your income. Ask yourself, what did this dollar do after I put it to work? Did it produce more income, more opportunities, more freedom? If the answer is yes, you're on the right track. Every reinvested dollar is like sending out an employee to work for you, day and night, quietly compounding, silently multiplying. The poor spend their profits. The middle class saves their profits, but the wealthy reinvest their profits. And the difference in outcome is staggering. Because wealth is not built by what you take out of the system, but by what you continually put back in. The harvest belongs to those who keep planting. Wealth is rarely an accident. It doesn't just show up one morning and knock on your door. Those who build fortunes do so because they had a plan, and they followed it with persistence and discipline. People who fail with money don't plan to fail, they simply fail to plan. And without a plan, life drifts. You spend, you consume, you work hard, but at the end of the year, you look around and wonder why you're standing in the same place you were 12 months ago. That's not chance. That's the absence of design. I remember when I was young and broke, I used to say, one day I'll be wealthy. But saying one day is not a plan, it's a wish. And life doesn't reward wishes, it rewards structure, direction, and clarity. The fortune is in the plan. You've got to sit down and put your future on paper. Not just vague dreams, but clear financial visions. Write down what you want in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. Attach numbers to it. Attach dates to it. Be specific. Don't just write, I want to be wealthy. Write, I want to have $100,000 invested by the 31st of December of next year. That's a plan. That's something measurable. And here's the key. Once you've written it, review it. Weekly. Life is too quick, too distracting, too full of noise to let your goal sit in a drawer. Every week, check your progress. Are you closer than last week? Did you save the amount you promised yourself? Did you invest the way you planned? Or did you let impulse, emotion, or distraction pull you off track? If so, adjust. Because the plan is not a straight line, it's a living, breathing map. You will course correct, but the destination must remain fixed. Think of it this way. Building wealth without a plan is like building a house without blueprints. You might end up with walls, but they won't stand. You might get a roof, but it will leak. The plan ensures that every piece fits together into a structure that lasts. And just as a builder measures twice and cuts once, you must review, measure, and refine your plan until it aligns with your ultimate vision of wealth. A plan gives you something powerful. It gives you accountability. It tells you if you're drifting or progressing. It forces you to act, because now your future isn't a dream, it's a schedule. Wealth is not built in a day, but it is built daily. And it's the plan that keeps the daily consistent. If you want fortune, don't wait for it, plan for it. Because wealth doesn't respond to chance, it responds to clarity. And clarity comes when you put your vision in writing, attach dates, and live by the map you've drawn. The greatest secret in building wealth is not speed, but consistency. Most people chase quick results, the big win, the overnight success. But real wealth is not built in explosions. It's built in quiet, steady accumulation through the magic of compounding. Compounding is the principle that small, disciplined actions, repeated over time, grow into massive results. It doesn't look exciting in the beginning. In fact, it often looks painfully slow. But over years and decades, it becomes unstoppable. I learned this truth when I first began saving. At the time, it felt insignificant. I'd put aside a small amount each week, hardly enough to change my life. But I kept at it. And then one day I looked back, and what was once a tiny sum had multiplied into something substantial, not because I earned more, but because compounding was doing the heavy lifting. Compounding rewards the patient. It's a marathon, not a sprint. The earlier you start, the greater the reward, because time is the multiplier. But compounding is not only about money, it's about habits, too. The small disciplines you repeat daily, saving before you spend, reading to grow your mind, exercising to keep your health. These compound just like interest. Every time you choose discipline over neglect, you add another layer of wealth to your life. Wealth is not one giant leap. It is thousands of small steps compounded over time. The key is to stay consistent. That's why you automate your savings and investments. Don't leave it up to willpower, because willpower fades. Automate the process so it happens whether you feel like it or not. And when the dividends come, when the interest shows up, resist the temptation to spend it, reinvest it, put it back to work. Money is like a worker. You want it to keep producing, not take vacations. The tragedy is that most people quit too soon. They underestimate what compounding can do over a decade. They stop because the early results feel too small. But those who stay the course, who keep sowing seeds, end up harvesting in abundance. You don't need to be brilliant, you need to be consistent. Because compounding, given enough time, turns ordinary actions into extraordinary outcomes. Wealth is not built overnight, but it is always built over time. And time, partnered with consistency, creates compounding. That's the secret. Start early, stay steady, and let the quiet power of compounding transform your future. The most expensive mistake a person can make is to trade away all of their time for money. Time is life's greatest asset, far more precious than money itself. Money, once lost, can be earned again. Time, once spent, is gone forever. Yet so many spend their lives giving away their days, their hours, their very life in exchange for a paycheck, never realizing that they've sold the one thing they can never get back. I remember when I worked long days, tied to the clock, waiting for someone else to decide what my hours were worth. And while it kept food on the table, it left me with little margin to build something bigger. I learned that if you spend every ounce of your energy trading time for dollars, you'll always be limited, because you can't stretch a day beyond 24 hours. There's a ceiling you can never break. The wealthy know this truth, and so they look for ways to escape the trap. The secret is building streams of income that don't require your constant presence. Investments, businesses, royalties, dividends. These are sources of money that flow whether you're working or not. You put in effort once, you build systems, and then they keep producing long after the initial work is done. Imagine planting a tree. You water it, nurture it, and in time it grows strong enough to bear fruit season after season. That's passive income. It continues feeding you without demanding your daily labor. The tragedy is that many people never even attempt to plant those trees. They spend their lives harvesting someone else's orchard. But you can decide today to start small. Maybe it's a portion of your paycheck funneled into investments. Maybe it's turning a skill into a product that sells while you sleep. Maybe it's a rental property, a dividend-paying stock, or intellectual property that pays royalties. The form doesn't matter as much as the principle. You must create income that doesn't depend on your time. Because true wealth is measured not just by how much money you make, but by how much freedom you buy back. When money works for you, your time is released to focus on creating, on building, on living. That's the life the wealthy understand. They don't just earn, they multiply. They don't just spend time, they invest it. And that's the key. Never spend all of your life trading time for money. Build streams of income that free you, so your time can be spent not just earning a living, but creating a life. Life, much like the seasons, comes with cycles. There's spring for planting, summer for growing, autumn for harvesting, and then, inevitably, winter. And winters always come. They arrive as recessions in the economy, setbacks in business, disappointments in relationships, and failures in personal pursuits. No one escapes them. What separates the successful from the struggling is not whether they face winters, but how prepared they are when those winters arrive. I remember when I first started in business. I was enthusiastic, full of vision, but I was unprepared for the storms. The first time things went wrong, I was nearly wiped out. Not because the winter was so strong, but because I had so little stored up to withstand it. That's when I learned a powerful truth. You don't prepare for winter in the middle of the storm. You prepare during the harvest. It's the actions you take in times of plenty that determine how you'll fare in times of scarcity. Think about the farmer. He knows that no matter how beautiful the summer, winter is on its way. So he stores grain, saves seed, builds shelter, and strengthens his tools. When the cold comes, he isn't caught by surprise. He's ready. Wealth works the same way. It's about building reserves, cash savings that can sustain you, multiple income streams so you're not dependent on just one source, and skills that can carry you through when everything else seems uncertain. And here's the beauty. When you prepare properly, winters stop being something you dread. They become opportunities. While others are scrambling in panic, you're steady. When the market crashes, you're positioned to buy. When a business fails, you have the resilience to pivot and start again. When disappointment comes, you've got the emotional and financial reserves to endure. Winters can actually make you stronger because they prune the weak and refine the prepared. Too many people live as though summer will last forever. They spend everything they earn, neglect to invest, and fail to grow their skills. Then, when winter inevitably arrives, they're devastated. But you can live differently. You can decide today to start storing, saving, preparing. Don't wait until the storm to buy an umbrella. Build your reserves now. Because here's the truth. It's not the winter that determines your destiny. It's the preparation. And when you're prepared, even the harshest winter becomes just another season on the way to spring. One of the most dangerous words in the language of success is someday. You've heard it, maybe even said it yourself. Someday I'll start saving. Someday I'll invest. Someday I'll get serious about my future. But here's the problem. Someday isn't on the calendar. Monday is, Friday is, even Christmas Day is, but someday, that day never arrives. It's a mirage. And people who wait for it often end up looking back on their lives full of regret, wondering where the time went. I can tell you from experience, success doesn't wait for the perfect moment. If you wait until you have more money, more confidence, or more certainty, you'll keep waiting. The truth is, there is never a perfect time, there's only now. The wealthy understand this. They know that small, imperfect beginnings are far more valuable than grand intentions that never get acted upon. It's not about waiting until you can save $1,000. It's about starting with one. It's not about waiting until you can read a library full of books. It's about reading 10 or 15 minutes today. It's not about waiting until you can make a giant investment. It's about putting in what you can right now and letting it grow. When I first began my journey, I wasn't in a position to make big moves, but I made small ones. I bought books, I studied daily, I put aside little bits of money even when it hurt. And here's what I discovered. It wasn't the amount that mattered, it was the habit, the discipline of starting. Because once you start, momentum begins to build, and small actions compound into extraordinary results over time. Here's the tragedy. People overestimate what they can do in a week, but underestimate what they can do in 5 years. You may think saving $1 or reading 15 minutes is insignificant, but do it consistently and watch what happens over months and years. Wealth doesn't show up in a day. It shows up because of daily actions stacked on top of each other. So, don't wait for someday. Don't wait for perfect. Start where you are, with what you have, and do what you can. Take the step today. Because wealth, freedom, and success don't belong to those who wait. They belong to those who begin. The secret to building wealth and success isn't hidden in one grand gesture, one big investment, or one heroic effort. It's hidden in something far simpler: consistency. Most people think the key is intensity, that if they just pour themselves into something for a short while, they'll break through and never look back. But life doesn't work that way. Intensity can light a spark, but only consistency keeps the fire burning. Wealth isn't won in a sprint. It's earned in a marathon of small, disciplined actions repeated over time. Think of it like planting seeds. You don't plant an orchard by throwing all your seeds in one spot and hoping for instant fruit. You plant them daily, water them daily, and tend them daily. Over weeks, months, and years, that patient consistency produces a harvest. But if you only water the soil in short bursts when you feel inspired, the trees will never grow. In my own journey, there were times I felt like doing a lot all at once, making big leaps. But I quickly learned that it was the daily habits that paid off. Reading every day, putting aside money every week, practicing discipline when no one was watching. It wasn't glamorous, and it wasn't immediate, but it was reliable. And reliability is what compounds into wealth. The danger with intensity is burnout. People go all in for a week, a month, maybe even a year, and then stop when life gets hard or enthusiasm fades. But consistency doesn't depend on mood or excitement. It's about commitment. Even if the step is small, what matters is that you take it every day. Saving a little daily, learning a little daily, building a little daily, that's what creates momentum. And momentum, once in motion, has a way of carrying you forward even when you feel tired. Celebrate the small wins. Don't underestimate them. Each one is proof you're on track, and together they build the foundation for extraordinary results. Intensity may give you moments of progress, but consistency will give you a lifetime of success. Wealth doesn't belong to those who sprint. It belongs to those who keep walking, step after step, until the journey is complete. One of the great paradoxes of wealth is that the more you give, the more it seems to return. At first glance, it doesn't make sense. We're taught that to build wealth, you must hold tightly, save aggressively, and protect what's yours. And yes, discipline and protection have their place. But here's the truth I discovered early on. Generosity is not subtraction, it's multiplication. When you give, you create flow, and wealth loves to move. If it stagnates, it dies. If it circulates, it grows. Giving does something extraordinary. It builds trust, it builds relationships, and it builds character. Money alone doesn't attract more money. People do, opportunities do, relationships do. And when you become known as someone who gives, who mentors, who contributes, who helps without keeping score, you create a magnetic pull. People want to do business with you. They want to partner with you. They want to see you succeed. I remember in the early days when I didn't have much, I couldn't give in large sums, but I could give in small ways. A book to someone who needed it. A word of encouragement. Time spent mentoring a young dreamer. Those seeds didn't just help them, they transformed me. Generosity stretches your soul, keeps greed from taking root, and reminds you that money is a tool, not a master. The wealthy know this. Abundance doesn't flow to the clenched fist. It flows to the open hand. Give with wisdom, give with joy, and give without expectation. The return may not come immediately, and it may not come from where you expect, but it always comes. Sometimes it shows up as new opportunities, sometimes as friendships that open doors, sometimes as inner peace that no amount of money can buy. So practice generosity daily. Donate to causes you believe in. Mentor those a few steps behind you. Offer free value to your clients or your network. And above all, cultivate gratitude, because gratitude is the seed of all generosity. In giving, you prove to yourself and the universe that you already live in abundance, and abundance, by its nature, always expands. Let me leave you with this final thought. Wealth is never just about the numbers in your bank account. It's about the person you become in the process. It's about the discipline you cultivate, the wisdom you gather, the relationships you build, and the freedom you create. If you only chase money, you'll always be chasing. But if you chase growth, contribution, and excellence, money will chase you. I've learned that the true measure of wealth isn't in how much you earn, but in how much you keep, how much you grow, and how much you give. Money is a marvelous servant, but a terrible master. It will either empower you to live a life of purpose and freedom, or it will control you, pulling you into cycles of fear, scarcity, and endless work. The choice has always been yours. Too many people spend their lives waiting for someday. They wait for the perfect timing, the perfect opportunity, the perfect plan. But let me tell you, someday doesn't exist. The wealthy act today. They begin where they are, with what they have, and they build from there. And what they discover is that the act of starting is far more powerful than waiting for the right conditions. A single discipline decision today, repeated daily, becomes a fortune tomorrow. As you step out of here, I don't want you to simply feel inspired. Inspiration fades. What I want for you is action consistent, deliberate action. Take one of the principles we've discussed, whether it's setting a stretching goal, reinvesting your profits, building assets instead of wages, or learning the language of money and implement it this week. Not next year, not next month, this week. Write it down, schedule it, do it. You see, wealth is not accidental. It's intentional. It doesn't come by wishing, hoping, or waiting. It comes by design, and the design begins with your decisions. If you decide today to take control of your money instead of letting money control you, if you decide today to invest in yourself instead of only consuming, if you decide today to value time over dollars, your future will look radically different 5, 10, 20 years from now. But here's the deeper truth. Wealth is not just for you. If all you do is accumulate, then all you've done is gather numbers. The ultimate joy of wealth is contribution, knowing that your success has paved the way for others, knowing that your abundance has created opportunity for those who come after you. Legacy is not what you leave for people, it's what you leave in people. So let this be your call to action. Stop waiting. Start building. Stop talking. Start doing. Live disciplined. Live generous. Live intentional. Build wealth not only for the freedom it brings you, but for the impact it allows you to create. Because at the end of the day, the greatest fortune isn't just in the money you make, it's in the life you design. Now is the time. Begin today.